Hi, and welcome to the Soul Garden, where we explore the inner and outer workings of living in a connected world. My name's Georgina Langdale, and I'm delighted to welcome you here. Today, I have a very special treat for you, my dear friend and extraordinary teacher, Karen Johnson. In these coronavirus times, she's in her home in the beautiful New York State countryside, and I'm here in my studio in Hawke's Bay, New Zealand. We're going to talk about death, grief, and the ways that we have found, and now teach, the creation of connection and healing. So, pour yourself a cup of something nice, get comfortable, and let's begin. Hi, I'm Georgina Langdale, and I have a real treat here for you today because we're going to have a wonderful discussion with the very beautiful and talented and visionary teacher and healer, Karen Johnson. Hi, Karen.
I didn't even have to pay you to say all that.
No, you did not. That is for sure. So, Karen and I first met a few years ago when I was training in shamanic energy medicine with Alberto and the Four Winds School. And Karen, you were one of my teachers, and I have to say you were extraordinary. And over the many months that we worked together, it was you taught me a lot, and I think a beautiful friendship has developed out of it
Yeah,
as well.
sure, for sure.
So
Yeah.
thank you. And today we are going to be looking at the whole process and journey around death and dying and grief. And both of us have come to it through different journeys. And we're working with it in slightly different ways, but we thought that there's a beautiful complement to what we do. And we feel that more and more in society, there is a real need to really to really look deeply at death without fear. You know, for so long, isn't it, Karen? So long society has been kind of scared of it. So we're trying to find ways to move past that fear.
Yeah. And also with grief, we're often told, get over it. It's time to get over it. It's time to move on. And so this, we've got to come to grips with that too. People grieve in different ways, and grief is a journey.
Yeah,
It's not a one and done or get over it. Everybody has a different process.
yeah, exactly. Um, so you have quite an interesting background.
Yes.
So for people who don't know Karen, and by the way, Karen's got a fantastic, lovely, shiny new website, karenjohnson.net. Do take a look because there's a wealth of information there, and Karen's many services that she offers around healing and shamanic work and health and nutrition and things really, and of course, grief and dying. But your career, you were a federal administrative law judge in Washington, D.C.
Yes, for many years. Yeah.
Wow. And a graduate of Georgetown Law Center, a former Fulbright scholar in Afghanistan. You hold a master's degree in public health and public international affairs. That's quite a journey from there to becoming a shamanic energy practitioner and teacher. And so I'm curious as we go through this morning of just touching back on that a bit more. But then your son Ben tragically died when he was 27.
Yes.
And so can you explain what I guess what you were searching for after his death and how it took you on this journey, extraordinary journey to where you are now?
Sure. Yeah. So, my son's 27-year-old. He was a financial guy, and they went to a party and on Halloween and got drunk, and for some reason they decided they were going to try heroin. And he was a big guy. He was
Yeah.
6'8", and they gave him too much, and he died instantly. And so my world just came crashing apart. I didn't have any context for this because I didn't have a spiritual practice.
Yeah.
I wasn't a religious person. I was more of an existentialist. When you live, you live, you die, and there's nothing. I just didn't, I don't know. I just never connected with traditional religion and
Yeah.
or spirituality or any of those practices. I just kind of lived my life academically, going from degree to degree and working hard as we do and getting caught up raising children. And then my parents, being in the sandwich generation with my parents. And
Sure.
I didn't think much about things until my son passed. And then suddenly I saw him. He came to me, and I called my ex-husband and said, "You got to go and check on Ben. I think he's alive, and he's trying to get out of the refrigerator in the morgue. I don't think he's dead." So anyway, the morgue technician decided, it was very kindly decided to go look and tell us, no, he's passed. And then once I started to see him, I started to see other deceased and people. They were
Right.
in my bedroom. He was there, and there was people around, and all kind of people wanted to give me messages and spirits, and I had no context. So I was kind of going a little out of my mind with it. I didn't
Yeah.
know what to do with it all. And
Yeah.
so it was a really long process, and I ended up finding a medium to help me with it, and then an evolutionary astrologer.
Yes.
Yep. And then the four winds. So I found the four winds and the shamanic practices, and I had tried Reiki and different things, but this really stuck with me.
Yeah.
And I ended up selling my home and all my possessions and traveling the world for 2.5 years and trying to figure out, find some meaning in this and some way to deal with grief, really. Death and grief, both of them, were big, and I had no context. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Gosh, your search for the Holy Grail.
Yes.
Yeah. So you trained with the Four Winds, and then what happened next from that? When did you start
Gosh, I trained
teaching?
with the four winds.
Were you still a judge at that point, or had you left that behind you? Or
I started with the four winds, and then and I knew that I really couldn't relate anymore to my life as a judge. Everything seemed not to fit. I kind of was thrown out of my world, and going to work and cases and hearings, it all just seemed pointless and irrelevant. And so after a course or two at the Four Winds, then I just decided I went on a vision quest with the Lakota tribe.
wow.
And
Where did you do that?
I did that in West Virginia in the
Right.
US. Yeah. So I went on there, and then I decided I was going to retire and put my house up for sale. And once I put in those retirement papers, it's funny how you get that wind at your back.
Yeah.
And everything just happened so quickly. I finished the Four Winds. Alberta said he'd like me to work with them. I sold my house. It sold in 3 days, as is, full price, which is almost unheard of.
Gosh. Wow.
Everything happened and happened and happened. And first thing you know, I find myself homeless. I've sold all my household goods, all my art, all my everything, or given away everything. And here I am with 2 suitcases going, oh my goodness.
Yeah. What next?
What next? Yeah. So it's been quite a journey. And I was really fortunate. I mean, the Four Winds has really been wonderful, and so much. And being a teacher with the Four Winds is amazing. So
can you just tell people who are watching this or listening to this a little bit about that, just in case they're not, are not familiar with Four Winds yet?
Yeah, the Four Winds. So it's thefourwinds.com, and it's a group of, it's neo-shamanism. So it's based on Andean practices from Peru, brought back from Alberto Villoldo, who was also a medical lab person looking in the Amazon for cures, and decided he was looking at the wrong end of the microscope and needed to look at us rather than the plants. But it's all plant medicine. So it's really this spiritual practice of shamanism, and it's a spiritual practice, but it's for everybody. In other words, you can be a practicing Catholic, a practicing Jew, practicing anything. It really has to do with working on the luminous energy field and helping our luminous energy field to improve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I must admit, I was attracted to the Four Winds because I'd worked with energy a lot since I was a child, and I'd trained as a Reiki master and things. But I kind of felt that like I needed. It was coming naturally, but I felt like I needed a little bit of discipline around it, you know. And
I'm
so,
not going to let you off the hook here. You're glossing over a whole lot of study and learning.
I'll come back to that if you like. But for me, Four Winds was fantastic because what it did for me was it helped me. It was sort of reassuring in a way because what I'd been doing naturally and other elements within me felt very comfortable, and I realized I wasn't, you know, completely bonkers. And and then it also introduces that beautiful concept of working around the wheel, which I just think is fantastic. And I must admit now, a few years on from graduating, I continue to work very much with the wheel with clients and things, clients of mine that come to me for coaching and healing work, and when I teach classes and things, and when I work with people through the death and dying and after death processes. And it's just been absolutely lovely. And your point about, you know, it doesn't matter whether you have any other sort of religious persuasion or ideology, it sits very well. And I think that goes for a whole lot of these sort of earth-based shamanistic, animistic sort of traditions like druidry and things as well. They're very open. You know, you can be a Buddhist and a shaman. You can be a druid and a shaman. I think Albert Einstein was a shaman. You know, he just talked about it in a scientific language, but because MC squared is basically everything is connected in the same way that we talk about it in shamanism. So
the physics, of course, is supporting the things shamans felt for you know, millennia.
Exactly.
So for those of us who are a little bit science minded, a little academic, I like having that. Not that it doesn't work anyway, but I like having that backup.
Sure, exactly. Yeah, I get that too. I'm a bit of a science geek, but you know, I keep thinking I'm also really interested in Renaissance philosophy around health and well-being and things. And right up until late Renaissance, man was seen very much in relationship with the natural world and the cosmos, you know, that well-ordered universe. And we couldn't really, a physician, and physis is nature, so a physician is one who works with nature to heal. A physician was not regarded as a physician. Hippocrates said this way back, unless he understood our relationship with the world, with planets, with rhythms and patterns and things through our cosmos, our universe. And in that, but the thing I love about focusing as well on that Renaissance time is back to your point about science. There was extraordinary thinking going on. You know, you had people like Leonardo da Vinci doing amazing things, and titans like Paracelsus. And so when you read the work of people like Paracelsus and things, they too have a very shamanic aspect to them. In fact, he traveled in the 1500s and all through India, China, up to Scandinavia and things. He spent a lot of time with shamans in different areas, and he learned a lot from that. So everything keeps kind of folding in and around itself. Is beautiful.
But we kind of lost that after the, I say Renaissance, you pronounce Renaissance. So we go to different, you know,
tomato.
But so we've lost that. I certainly lost it. I was just caught up in the daily grind.
Yeah.
And I didn't know there was any way. Now it called the hamster wheel,
Yeah.
the hamster
Oh, totally.
wheel. And
Yeah,
then suddenly when my son passed, I was out of the hamster wheel laying in the grass going, what the heck?
Yeah.
This is a weird world. Nothing makes sense anymore. But I'm lucky. I mean, I think my son really saved me, brought me a great spiritual practice. And he still comes, we still have great times together. And
Can you tell me, he's also inspired you to write a book, which I think has just been published, hasn't it?
Well, it hasn't been published yet, but I submitted it to
Yeah.
Hay House for a competition, a writer's competition. So we'll see. If it doesn't get published through Hay House, it'll be somewhere, some way. But it's called Living Grieving, Radical Acceptance of Death as a Gift and Catalyst for Change. And so my premise is as above, so below. So our deceased loved ones go through transition, then resurrection on the other side, and then rebirth to this new life. Certainly my son has, he transitioned, found himself on the other side and was awakened and like, oh my gosh, now he's rebirthed into this life that he lives on the other side. Or maybe he lives several lives on the other side. So it's time illusion, and so do people who are grieving, people that are left behind. We go through this process too. We transition from this life with our loved one, and then all of a sudden we're rebirthed into this state of being, trying to figure out how can we cope, how life be different, what do we want, and then rebirth at the end, like incorporating all the wisdom of grieving. So grief for me, like we always say, oh, the joy of motherhood and the wonders of marriage, but nobody talks about the wisdom of grief, right? Our culture kind of suppresses that. And so if we can connect into grief and the wisdom of the grieving process and use that as a catalyst for change, because our loved ones on the other side do not want to see us suffering.
No, that's true.
If you sign up to my website, there's 8 things spirits on the other side wish you knew. And one of them is that it makes it very hard for them to do their work on the other side when we're so deeply stuck in grief. So they really want us. We think if we show them how much we're suffering, they'll know how much we love them. But that's not so. It just keeps them, and it keeps us stuck, and they're stuck. We're all stuck. So our transformation has to mirror theirs. And once we see that, it's a beautiful thing. We need people to see that.
Did you do a workshop on this?
Yes.
Can you?
Did 4 Winds. It was on grieving and dying consciously. And so we went through a lot of the shamanic work that we do to help souls to transition to the other side. And we help, find people, ancestors, and help them to go higher realms. I mean, in the Indian mythology, it sort of mirrors the bardos and Christian mythology about places where you go for healing before you end up in your final place. So we find people and help lighten them up, and so they can go on a little bit higher in 2 different places. So we do all that. And also the grieving, and also using the 16 practices that are part of the medicine wheel, the 4 Winds medicine wheel by Alberto. So like non-judgment, non-suffering, all those practices, and how you can use them as a journey to help people.
Indeed, it's very, very powerful. I have found my work roams across a few different areas, but one of the bits that I feel is really sacred and central really to who I am as a person is working as well with people through death. The way that I've come to this is we were talking about our kind of respective wounds in a way, weren't we, Karen?
Yeah. Why don't you tell us a little bit about you before we get into that? Because you have this wealth of knowledge and information in this field that is fantastic.
Okay. Well, for me, I grew up in England, and I was 8 years old when we moved to New Zealand. So hence the kind of funny accent. Sorry for people who are watching this in the US, but anyway, there you go. So And I had a very comfortable, I guess, childhood. It was somewhat remote, because my parents were of that age and social standing where kind of parenting was a little bit abstract. When I was 7, I bicycled down the road to a little village to go and play with some kids, and their father took me into a hay barn at the back of the, behind the house, tied me up and raped me, and did all the threats and things they do to kind of keep you quiet in this thing. But a whole number of things happened for me, and I've always seen that as that's the kind of point I navigate around for my wound, as it were, for a shamanic wound. 2 things happened. At the time, I left my body, and I had floated up, and I could see everything. I had the double thing of experiencing physically what was going on, but soul and spiritually, I was gone. I was way up. I could still see the dust motes coming through the light sun shafts, and I was kind of up there with the dust. Then when I had to bike home, and afterwards, and the plants, the hedgerow, or the plants on the side of the road started saying to me, "We can help you." And I started seeing like kind of streams of energy and different light and stuff coming out of these plants. And I thought, oh my God, this is like a really big day now. The plants are talking to me. Anyway, I went home, and I couldn't talk to my parents about it. Just wasn't that sort of house. But I went out, we had a farm, and I just went out to the plants. The trees were there for me. They really earthed me and helped me kind of stay in my body and on the ground, and I got to a point where I thought, these plants are still talking to me, maybe I should talk back. So I did, and this just opened a door into an amazing journey of really a passion about discovering the ways in which we can work with nature for our healing. But there was also this energetic thing, and I had realized at that point that when I left my body, I was sort of still me, but I was everything else as well. Then when I was about, I don't know, I think I was about 16 or 17, a very dear friend of mine, who was a couple of years older than me, was killed tragically in an accident on his parents' farm. And I was devastated, and I had things happening, like he would use my body because he was not ready to go yet. So his spirit would come into my body. So it was all, I could feel this other presence within me, and it made all my capillaries tingle, and he would use me to walk around for a little while, and I felt like, when you watch TV and the camera angle of the people's eyes walking down the street, I was kind of, I was looking through my eyes like it was a TV camera or something. Very odd. Anyway, then one time he came to me, and it was night, and I was asleep. I woke up, and he said, "If you want to come with me now is the time for you to come with me." I so wanted to go. And I could feel him. I could see me down there asleep, and I was between worlds, and you know what, it felt okay. So but I wasn't ready, so I kind of whooshed back into my body. But what that taught me was not to be so afraid of death. I think we're all afraid of how we might die, but the experience of death, suddenly I just saw it as a changing of state. In the south, it is the serpent shedding its skin. For me, or in the west, it is that sun going down, that death, that transformation. It was merely a transformation rather than an end. But anyway, over the years, I started studying herbal medicine, and I had this energy thing going on. I could move, having been energy, I could move energy, and having seeing plant energy and feeling it, I could move it. So I kept sort of working away in that. But like you, life got in the way. I ran a cultural communications agency in London. I did trade promotion in Europe. I ended up working for Kew Gardens. I was acting chief executive of their foundation that raises all the money for Kew in London. And then I went and worked for the United Nations, and I was based in Germany, and a whole lot of other things in between. But all the time, this idea of healing and nature was there. And all the time, there'd been a number of people in my life who I had to help through illness and things like that. Eventually, I came back to New Zealand in 2011, and my mother got cancer, or diagnosed with cancer, shortly after I returned. She died, and I have to say that was a bad death. It was very disconnected. There was a lot of anger and heartbreak. When she died so badly, so disconnectedly, I thought, I want to do something so other people don't have to experience death in this way. So I became very interested in how to start kind of channeling this energy work and these plants as allies into that context. Then at the same time, my father was going downhill with dementia, and he ended up in care, and he went on that conveyor belt through, you know, rest home to secure dementia unit to hospital wing and a rest home to death. And that took 4 or 5 years. And during that time, I started working a lot with people in those care facilities and things, with people with dementia and stuff, with plant essences. So I would, you know, and you'd find some people, they like that, but what it enabled people to do, you could see them traveling in their mind. So I would do very beautiful guided visualizations with people. And then I would anoint them with the plants, or even in autumn, I would take autumn leaves I picked up on the way down to the home as I was walking there, and I would crunch them for them, or let them crunch them and sniff them. It was very much about bringing nature into the room. Then my father had a stroke, and it took him 3 days to die. And I was with him from as soon as they told me he'd had the stroke till after he died. So what I found was working with plant. So to backtrack a bit, we can work with plants in a number of ways. We can stick them in a vase and go, oh my God, they're beautiful. We can walk in nature in a city park or a beautiful, you know, national park. It doesn't matter, or your farm or garden. But in herbal medicine, we work with plants in a number of ways, including we make tinctures from them. So that's when you put plant material into something like, it could be an alcohol or glycerin or something, and it extracts the medicinal properties from the plant, and then you take the tincture. So it's very strong, you just need, you know, 30 drops a dose or something. That is a tincture. Then you have essential oils, which are the beautiful, fragrant, aromatic things in little bottles that cost a fortune, and they should cost a fortune, because that is a mass of plant material is required to be distilled down to these very, very concentrated essences, essential oils. And they're oils because they are literally the oils, the volatile oils from the plant. Heavily aromatic, can be extremely beneficial physically and psychologically. But they also can, people who don't know them, how to use them, you know, you can hurt yourself with them because they're just such concentrated amounts of a plant. So you just need to know what you're doing, and it pays to go to somebody who knows what they're doing. And then there are plant essences, and these over the years, I work across all of these, but I love working with plant essences. So what they are very small amounts of the plant. Back to our thing about science, it's like you're creating a quantum connection with the energy, the arceus of the plant, the vital force of the plant. Things I work with the lunar calendar to know when to get maximize energy, whether it's an outward energy or a downward energy. But what it does is, when I look at them, I think, okay, so this plant has this medicine in a tincture form. This would be how I would use it as a herbalist. I might use it as an aromatherapist, might not. But how do those therapeutic qualities transfer into a quantum sense to work with soul and spirit, heart, and emotions?
I love it.
So they become your allies. You know, they're like a hug in a bottle. So this, for example, is, it's hard to see. This is a little 10 ml bottle, and you only need, with plant essences, you only need to use a drop or two. You know, so each process, it's just very, very subtle. And it hasn't been affected by heat. Like, you know, it's just very, very pure. And I call them a little hug in a bottle.
I love it.
And then each plant has its own quality, and they can ground you, they can help you release. I can give you some examples if you like, as we talk about going around the wheel. So what I did, well, as an example, when my father was nearing death, and I did this, I've done this for other people, I've worked with a lot of people now, you know, as they're nearing death and after death. So one of the plants, to give you an example, is mallow, Althea officinalis. And when we use mallow in herbal medicine, it's a demulcent, it's very soothing. So it soothes our digestive system. You use the root and it's all gummy. Marshmallow is marshmallow. So used to, when children were teething, you would give them the root, clean bit of marshmallow root to suck on, because it goes all mucusy and but that soothes their gums, and it's full of antiseptic, you know, properties and things. So I found myself thinking, looking at mallow and spending time with it, and I thought the root helps us at the beginning of life when we're teething as infants. The flower, I thought I could feel its energy, as this flower has that same soothing, journeying capacity. So as someone's nearing death, I'm going to put a couple of drops of mallow into their water or their, you know, their mouth swab. You can anoint them, very beautiful, so that energetically they're being held by that soothing energy.
I love it.
So as they're nearing death, it's just soothing things down. Then when my father was literally just about to take his last breath, I anointed him and myself with an elixir blend I'd made called Letting Go, or Quintessence. And it has plants in it that help with shedding and releasing, because I needed to let him go too.
Yeah.
So I anointed myself and him. That was one of the most extraordinary parts of the whole process. Then when the staff came back in after he died, I anointed them as well. So we could all help let him go, and he equally could go. And then I did some rites for him and onwards. I've worked now a lot with funeral directors here in New Zealand. Not all, they're not all of them are there yet on this, but some are. So now some of them are offering these plant essences of mine. They put them in the visitor room where the body may be for their for the family, and invite them to connect to each other and the person with these.
Beautiful. I love it.
Thank you. Sorry,
that's where we're kind of co-collaborating on
Yeah,
this, you
yeah,
know? Yeah. So
yeah,
it's like death is sort of like an ending, and then grieving is like this whole process that's beginning. So
yeah,
you've got the endings and the beginnings for the people that are left behind, and really for the people on the other side too.
yeah.
You're
Yeah.
journeying too.
Exactly, exactly. So I have found that combination of energy and plants, I talk about it as it's at the end of life, it's bringing nature into the room. So another example is I was with somebody on the day that he was dying, and he had been brought home to die, and I connected him energetically to a tree outside his bedroom window, so that when he was going, he knew that he would have that there waiting for him, so he could travel up it and move on from there, or that while he was ready, he had its energy was just supporting him, you know. That above and below thing, it was rooted in the ground that he loved, but its trunk heading up to the upper world for
Love it.
him.
Oh, I love it. Yeah. Oh, that's so brilliant. I just love it. I just love it. And then, so then we talk about, so I like to really work with people that are grieving. The
Yeah,
dying part, yes, that's so magnificent too, but there's this whole overlooked part, I think, in our society, people who
yeah,
are grieving. Sometimes they say, okay, you have a year, you have this, you have that. Well, I can tell you, I fell completely apart at the 5-year mark, and
yeah,
I had done all the work. I
yeah,
had been the 4 winds, and that was just last fall. I'd written the book.
yeah,
And what I learned from that experience was, oh my gosh, so I had these tools that are in the book and this journey to go through, and I could go back again and say, okay, what's coming up?
yeah.
What's coming up now? What am I revisiting? So I don't think we're ever at the end,
No,
but if we have an idea of the journey, then we can go back and through it again and say, okay, let me go back to the beginning here. Let me see, what do I need to shed?
yeah,
Is judgment coming in? Is suffering coming in? So, suffering,
yeah,
we make ourselves, I mean, pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional, right? That's one of those
yeah,
sayings that, and I thought, well, that's really good, but how does that work? And then we learned that it's the story we wrap around. The fact is, my son tragically died at 27,
yeah,
um, heroin overdose. He went out with friends, but the suffering I wrapped around that, I wasn't a good enough mother. I should have been there. I should have maybe even given him a different kindergarten. I'm
oh
sure.
gosh,
Fact
yeah,
that, you can just go back and back and back and create stories about it. Maybe it was the divorce. Maybe it was this. It was all this, and wrap this big story around it. And that causes so much suffering. So to let go of stories. So that's what I thought we could talk a little bit about, this
please,
process and plans, and how we could help people in this journey. So I always say, as above, so below.
yeah,
So
yep,
transition, direction, and rebirth. So here we are, and I wish so much I had you right there with me when I was going through this, because
yeah,
I think
yeah,
so much better. But so we can do it for other people,
yeah,
that's,
yeah,
we can make it better. So and I was even thinking, I have all these exercises for the South and for the West for shedding. We get
yep,
stuck in our grief, stuck, and we can't
yep,
see how to get out of it. And
totally,
then move on, we let go of some things, become less stuck, and then we transition, and then finally we can live a life embodying this wisdom of our grief. But it
yeah,
takes time, it takes a process. And I would love to incorporate some of your wisdom on plants in that, and what could we give people that are just newly stuck and in that. And I think you even call one intense grief elixir. I'm like,
oh yeah,
I had intense grief elixir 5 years ago.
that one's quite a big seller of mine, I have to say.
I mean, it just sounds perfect.
Yeah, so that I believe that in that moment of intense grief, it's kind of, I want to be, it's the idea of being held in it, not numbed to it.
Yes.
It isn't a pharmaceutical numb it, and block it out. It's actually holding you within it. So I made the intense grief elixir after an ex of mine from years ago, he died a couple of years ago, and he wanted to speak to me before he died. And he was in Australia, I'm in New Zealand. I was so scared. I thought, this will be fine, I can do this. And during the phone call, I thought, oh my God, this phone call might kill him. He's so ill. It was just awful and beautiful and tragic. When I got off the phone, I fell to pieces. And I looked at my plant essences and I thought, I'm in pieces. That's okay. That's natural. But how do I have protection and help in this? What will hold me? So I pulled out two key plants. One there's hawthorn is a hawthorn trees. You have them in the States, you know, and they flower and blossom in early spring. And hawthorn is a heart medicine at that base kind of coarse herbalist level. And I had 3 trees on my property, and one had really was like protecting its heart itself. It was all like, oh God. And I thought, I need that now. And another one was like a big grandmother hug. So I took those essences to imbue that energy, to be imbued with that energy of that massive heart medicine tree hug of the grandmother tree, and the intense help of that very raw, vulnerable state of the other one, which I call the hurting, because they're both heart medicine. And then there was another tree called kofi in New Zealand. I don't know if it's a native plant here, beautiful yellow flower. And for some, to me, it's a bit like arnica, you know, it's great for shock. And I took a drop of that and everything went still.
Oh.
And I was still there in my grief, but you know, the noise in your head with grief, that was gone. It was just space. So it kind of created space for me to be in my grief and to acknowledge my grief. Anyway, so then other people, I put it in a bottle with a label on it, and you know, other people, it is used a lot. So it's about so for example, if you were working on the medicine wheel and you were in the South and you were looking at that shedding, you could use it to set yourself up before starting work with you and the wheel. I'm just going to create the space for me to be.
Yes. Oh gosh, I love it.
I think it would just be beautiful. And then you kind of taking people through the door in your way as well would be beautiful. I went round the wheel. I was reading your fantastic death exercises and your journeying around about grief work, and I've jotted down a whole some different plants and things. But I think, why don't we go around it direction by direction? You tell us a little bit about the South, and I'll talk about a couple of plants, and we'll move on round.
Yeah. So for me, the South is, for people that are grieving, is where you're most stuck, because you're suffering, you're judging, you feel judged, you don't see beauty around you anymore. All those things keep you just in this space of, like you said, that clogged head, like having a cold that just won't quit. Yeah.
And it's that holding on almost too tight for fear of, I think that fear of, if I let go, they won't be there anymore.
Yes.
Isn't it? And we go through that if they won't be there. So I thought very much on as well about, it's that idea we talked about before of serpent shedding its skin. And in your writing, you spoke about, or there was a quote about the pain. We have there, without pain there is no beauty.
Yes.
So I thought of 2 plants. So I keep thinking a tree and a flower for each point. So to keep one grounded and strong, I thought of oak as tree energy. Oak is a sacred tree of the Druids, so more shamanic practice there. Oaks roots go into the ground as deep as the tree is coming above the ground. So there's a beautiful balance. And oak has salicylic acid in the bark, salicylates, which is what aspirin is made from. So there's a sort of pain relief energy to it. So oak is a very protective tree. For thousands of years, cultures have seen it as a protective tree. So in preparation for when we're feeling stuck, we're feeling vulnerable. So imagine that energy of that tree is at your back. It's at your heart center. Frog in my throat. So I thought that that would be a very helpful ally to kind of give you the strength to give yourself the freedom to maybe unstick a bit. And then I thought, excuse me, I'll just take a sip of a flower. And I thought of the rose because of the beauty way. And a rose has a thorn. So there's that pain and then there's that beauty. And for me, energetically, I use rose a lot with people who have got some trauma of any type, because I think that we always see rose as a kind of romantic thing we give to other people, but rose reminds us to see the beauty in ourselves as well. So in a grief context, it's acknowledging the pain with the thorn, but it's opening up you up to the beauty way, and you've got that oak tree at your back.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
And you just take a couple of drops of the essences in water, or you anoint your heart center. You'd be like the nightingale pressing the thorn to its breast to sing the most beautiful song. Remember, there's that beautiful, I think it's Oscar Wilde, someone wrote it. It's that heart energy. I acknowledge the pain, but I'm going to find the beauty in the memories.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, I love that. I love that. All right, so let's move on to the West.
Yes.
The West is also a place of, you're still not in rebirth or resurrection or rebirth. You're kind of still in this transition phase, and you have all those things going on with thinking about karma and your ancestors. Now this person, in my case, my son, is now my ancestor. And how do I even?
Yeah.
Right. So everything seemed still tumbled and upside down.
Yeah.
So what would you do to work with that energy?
I think, well, for me, I see that West place, it is that turning fear into courage. It's that transformation space, isn't it? What does the new normal look like now?
Outcome. Yeah, you're in the middle of it.
Yeah, it's this kind of, you're seeing the death, but you're not maybe quite seeing the life, which is just coming. You're heading towards a new way of life. So I thought of a couple of things here. One, I thought of, and we were talking somewhere in your writing, you talked about binding, about things creeping over you and sort of and I responded to it with jasmine, because if you think about jasmine, it's a night, its scent comes out in darkness. So in that west point of darkness and jumble, and it grows all jumbly over everything. So it's like it grows in a confusion.
I love
it. But its scent comes out in the darkest, it's the darkness that brings out its beauty.
Yeah, the darkness of the jungle where things are dead and dying that have to go, and yet you're...
Yeah. So energetically, a plant essence, you're not going to smell its beautiful energy, but you won't smell its aroma, but you will get that energy. But what you could do is invest in some very high quality jasmine absolute essential oil, and maybe put a drop in a diffuser or something. Then you could do the same with rose in the south. So you have that aromatic thing happening of that heady, earthy jasmine, and then you use the plant essences to take you energetically into that, to help you sensually through that transition.
Yes. Yes. So in my book, you know, my exercises have people sitting in meditation
Yeah.
and writing down each of the things in each of the 4 practices of each part of the medicine wheel that they want to release, have with great intention. And my thought was, gosh, to have these essential oils being diffused in the background while you're sitting would be so clarifying. So you can help you. Sometimes you're so stuck you can't even think. So it would help you open up.
Yeah, definitely. It would be a really beautiful thing to do. Quite a few yoga teachers use the plant essences in a diffuser, and they'll do today we're going to do an evening primrose yoga practice, and I get them to tell the class about the plant and how it will help our body or whatever. So similar thing. You can, what is the energy I want around me right now? What is the energy I want to fill my energy field with? What is the plant energy that can support me at this point? So jasmine's one. Cleavers is another. I've just realized I've got plants and not trees, but cleavers is that bitty bid grass, you know, and its little things stick to your socks. Goose grass it gets called, or biddy bid. Its real name is cleavers. And maybe I'll put a photo here, and when I tidy up the thing so people can see. So cleavers is used in medicine to help the body. It works with the lymphatic system and helps the body release toxins. So energetically, it helps release, move forward. You know, it's a cleansing. Cleavers is a great medicine to take as a tea or something in spring. It kind of gets rid of all that winter rubbish, you know. So energetically, it's helping you move forward through that confusion.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love it. Love it, love it, love it. Okay,
So
we're going to go to the north. So the north is this place of, or did you have more plants?
Nope.
Okay, so the north is this place in my mind of resurrection, where you've kind of let go of a lot, and now you're kind of like that little bird or that little eaglet, and the mind is just about teetering on the edge, wondering if you could dare flap your wings and before you get shoved out of the nest. And so there you are. Yeah. Very vulnerable, and yet trying to make something out of what happened, right? And not being stuck anymore, but not really fully in rebirth, not fully in your new life. So you're in that little middle ground.
You're at the gate departure lounge in the airport. You haven't quite taken off yet. Not that any of us are taking off anywhere right now, but
no. And you want to find a flight that's going to take you on your soul's journey. You're looking for that beauty to come in. You know, you're looking for that soul journey.
Okay. So the plant that really comes for me here is rosemary. Rosemarinus officinalis. So rosemary. So we've been in the night with jasmine. Now we're heading towards the day. Rosemary is a plant that's ruled by the sun, very hot, stimulating energy. But rosemary has so many great things about it. It helps you concentrate. So if you're cramming for an exam or something, you just scrumple some fresh rosemary leaves under your nose. It will help you a lot. So it's a plant of focus, but in ancient lore and through time, rosemary was included in hand fasting ceremonies and pagan time weddings. Rosemary was included because it represents fidelity, right? But it's also in funeral wreaths because it represents remembrance. Okay, so and then medicinally it works with focus. It will relieve stress, headaches. Its flowers are kind of purpley color, so chakra wise it's working with your third eye and kind of crown chakra area, so it's getting you ready for liftoff. But energetically I see it as the fidelity is about being true to yourself. Remember to be true to yourself. Who am I in all of this? What do I want?
Yes,
How integrity,
Yeah,
lineage, and
yeah, all of those beautiful North practices.
yeah, and I think that and for so much of this journey, the last person we actually sort of think about of ourselves in grief, sorry, is ourself, isn't it? We lose sight of who we are and what we want. Rosemary, at that point before kind of takeoff in the east, is helping you get back to who am I? Let me be true to myself. In being true to myself, I still can remember my loved one.
Yes, yes.
So it's a
yeah.
very beautiful thing. And then another plant that I think works beautifully with it is mullein. Mullein, Vibascum thapsus, and it has big furry leaves, and it very soft, and a big stalk comes up with little yellow flowers at the top, and it grows everywhere. But mullein, the leaves are used as a lung remedy, and the flowers are used as an ear remedy traditionally, and the leaves are also used as a poultice for sprains when things are out of shape. So I see its energy as helping us with communication. And if your lungs are working, golly, what an energy, what an essence to use now in COVID-19 times.
Oh,
Lungs are energetically supported, you can speak your truth. If your ears are energetically supported by its ear medicine, you can listen well. You can listen to your inner voice. You can listen to the wisdom and messages that may come in as you're through the wheel. And it so kind of makes me think of that lineage of where are my ancestors? What am I hearing of my son now? What is he telling me? My loved one who's passed. How am I remembering them well with Rosemary, and how am I being true to myself in this?
Yes. And,
as I journey through grief.
I love it. It's that practice in the North of beginner's mind, like looking at your life all afresh and not being that person that everybody wanted you to be, but in integrity, finding your own voice, who you really are. Maybe those lost dreams and desires that you had long ago, you can recapture, reclaim. And so that's beautiful. I love it.
And it works beautifully with your thing of getting people journal, write it down. What comes, write it down.
Write it down. And then release it in the fire with great intent. With shamans, we would take things to the fire as a path of rapid transformation.
Which is why, and that's why rosemary is so good, because it's a plant of the sun, that heat, that fire, that.
I love it. I love it. This is so wonderful. Yeah.
So, and then the east, Karen.
Okay, now we're in rebirth. This is where we're no longer the fledgling. We've got our wings and we're flying, and we are rebirthing. We're taking all this wisdom of all the suffering and the pain and the transformation, all of it to create something for ourselves, something that honors our loved one and honors us too.
It's a beautiful new day, and it's that that hawk, eagle, condor flying above that landscape. So you got this amazing perspective. You start to get above and see beyond. So I thought that a really iconic tree for that would be redwood or sequoia, because you've got that trunk up. So you've got that energy just drawing up into the heavens, giving you that amazing perspective. So energetically, the redwood energy, we've got a beautiful redwood forest that I walk in a lot here, and I've made essences from it. I always think of how they're kind of pulling me up. You can't help but look up, and then you can look beyond. And then, so you've got this beautiful perspective now. You can see around you. You can fix on the details where you need to, but you're seeing the bigger picture again.
Yes.
And that bigger picture obviously can include the memories of your loved one, of course, but you move on. And then I thought of a flower is sage or salvia, salvare, salvation. So it's like a beautiful reward for you you're going on this journey, and you'll probably go around it again and again and again, as you were saying, as grief moves. But you've got this salvation, this plant salvia. It's like I think of it as a plant of Jupiter. It's expansive, and it's salvation, it's healing, it's warming when you want it to be warm, it's cooling when you need it to be cool. It's just fabulous.
I love it. And that's what our loved ones want for us. I remember one time I was giving rites and teaching and doing things, and Alberto Vioto was watching, and he of course can see really into the other world, and he saw Ben, and Ben turned around to him and said, "I am so proud of her."
Oh, lovely.
So proud of my mom. And so Alberto passed that on, and he is, that I've transformed this life of boxes and boxes. I had offices with boxes and boxes and boxes of exhibits and things, and here I am at my desk all the time and alone, and then I transformed, and I'm all over the world. I'm traveling the world, I'm teaching all over the world, I'm on expeditions, and I'm living a whole different life. So I took Ben's tragedy, and I freed both of us.
Yeah.
Freed me, I freed him, and we both now are in a better spot.
My father, after he died, I immediately got to work making a course for people that they can do online called A Flower at the Bedside.
Yes. Oh, everybody should sign up for this course.
Connecting to nature at the end of life. And I take people through what does connecting to nature mean?
Yes.
How do you do it at the bedside? Not just for the person that's ill, but for the people around them, family, loved ones, nurses, whatever. And then how do you work with that energy to support you after death? To create connection. And my dad came and visited me. He used to smoke like a chimney, and he's an old sort of English toff, and he leaned on the door in the kitchen, and I was tapping away, making this notes for this course, and he said, "I'm really proud of you for doing this." He said, I hope this is giving you much more than I could ever give you as a, whatever. But it was a beautiful thing. Yeah. And and he wasn't a hippie sort of man, so I thought it was quite nice of him to cope with my crazy.
I know, right? It's like they watch, and they and so we free them too, because they can go on and do their work on the other side, and knowing that we're doing this that is so honoring of them. Yeah. So always that sort of honoring place of.
I've found in the last, during this coronavirus time, obviously, and we're in lockdown and different things, I've been doing a lot more work with people around coaching and working with these plant energies and things to help them cope with isolation, disconnection. I've been working with people who've lost people who've died during lockdown. How does the family come together when they can't come together? And how do friends celebrate and feel connected to that passing of a loved one when they can't be there? That has been really interesting. So I just want to do a little shameless plug. I've got this course, Flowers at the Bedside. I've got a website, georginalangdale.com, and that's on there. The other course that I'm working on at the moment is actually a full diploma that takes people deep. We go deep dive into working with this energy, this quantum connection with plants.
Oh, I love it.
And I'm hoping I'll get that ready soon, and I'll be teaching that in modules that they can download, but I will also be doing lectures through Zoom and things on that. And likewise, you'll do teaching as well through your.
I have a podcast I'm working on too that I'm going to put out there. So it'll be 18 podcasts, 16 practices of the medicine wheel, and then an intro and an ending. Fantastic. And I would just love to have everybody supported by your work too. So I love this sort of interweaving. I want
Me too. Yeah. Everything is connected.
Everything is connected for sure. Yeah. And it's so funny because Georgina I've never met, in person, but energetically we're like best
We're
buddies.
just so there. Yeah. We just hang out.
And yeah, and it's just so, it's so a lot of people, my age are like, I don't like this internet. How do you connect? And I'm thinking, we just do.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
our energy field is big. Our hearts are big. We connect through our hearts, and it can go all over the world. So
Yeah.
yeah,
It is a real, I just think it's neat, in a way, in a funny sort of way. This physical disconnection has brought a lot of people a lot closer together.
yes,
Like
yes,
my family in England, I've got family in England and in the States and all over the place, and I'm the only one here in New Zealand, and now we talked all together on Zoom, and we never did that before.
right. And people are pulling out the board games and the things that you never have time for.
Yeah.
Everybody's so busy.
Yeah.
So with the children, there's no soccer games and football and all
No.
this run. And we live our life in our car, and all of a sudden we're out of our cars.
Yeah.
Different life. It's been sort of magnificent. I mean, I know there's a downside for that,
Of course,
for
but
people in abusive situations, but then there's always the lighter side too, and
yeah, it's a pretty amazing. So I'm going to put a link to your website on my website.
perfect. Then I'm going to put a link to you on mine too.
Okay. And I also wonder, it would be wonderful if people want to leave comments below, I think it would be interesting to gauge whether people might be interested in maybe us doing a virtual
Yes.
class of some sort together.
Fun. That would be super. Let's see what people have to say. I think it would be super fun, work through all of these things and different bases of knowledge, and it's sort of all kind of dovetails.
It is a beautiful thing, and for people, Karen is the most wonderful teacher, and
thank you.
so I think that we would both love it if you'd like to leave some feedback.
Yes, for sure.
Hello.
And one thing I wanted to mention too is this idea of grief does not have to be linked to death. In this COVID-19 world, we're grieving so many things: loss of freedom, loss of money, loss of stability and security. And so these practices are not just, and the essences are not just for people
So
who
true.
are grieving death, but grieving anything. So I think it's big. Everybody's looking in these times to try to figure it out.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, on that note, I suppose we should
wrap it up.
Wrap it up, baby.
Exactly enough.
So it's just, it's a delight. Thank you so much for your time.
You too. Yeah, this is great. So we'll keep in touch, and we'll put it on our websites, and looking for lots of feedback.
Yeah, that would be gorgeous. And thank you for listening as well, people out there.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.
Hi, and thank you so much for listening to this episode of Soul Garden. If you're interested in purchasing any of the plant essences mentioned, you can find them over on my website, georginalangdale.com, where you can also find my courses and coaching opportunities. And if you're interested in the idea of Karen and I working together, then please do leave a comment below or drop us a line, and we'll see what we can do. And you can find Karen and her beautiful offerings over on karenjohnson.net. And if you want to keep in touch with what we're up to, I recommend that you sign up to our newsletters on our websites. So thank you again for being here, and until next time, take care, be well, stay safe, and stay connected. Bye.